It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. As always, the deck list is going to be down in the description for you below, as well as I'd appreciate any interaction you would do with the video, like, comment, and subscribe for me. Today we're working our way through the Modern Horizons 3 precons, and I'm doing my full brew for Omo, Queen of Vesuva, the commander of the Tricky Terrain Precon. If you're interested in just a smaller budget version, I'm going to have my $50 upgrade over on the channel as well. That'll be up today as well. But today we're talking about Omo, Queen of Vesuva, a 3-mana Simic shapeshifter noble. It says whenever she enters the battlefield or attacks, or they enter the battlefield or attack, put an everything counter on up to one target land and up to one target creature. Each land with everything counter on it has each land type in addition to its other types, and each non-land creature with everything counter on it has every creature type. It's a really interesting ability, right? Giving lands every land type and creatures every creature type. This means we can do a lot of different things. I think the first thing that came to mind for me was, how can we pay off lands having every land type? And I think one of the easiest ones to do that is with gates. So we're going to talk about kind of pushing this deck towards gates and how we're going to win that way. As far as creature types, I think Omo probably excels as a tribal deck where you're using a bunch of lords and different abilities. And we have a ton of them in there, but the one I thought about quickly was something like Slivers. A lot of the green and blue Slivers deal with things like flying or tapping for mana or getting counters. And I feel like those are important abilities we can use to help us out. We have lots of copy effects and lots of other things, so I think we're going to talk about how we're going to copy not only lands, but their permanents as well. And then we'll talk about some of the cards where type matters, but believe me, there's so many options there, I'm just going to cherry pick a few of my favorites. Well, as we get into gates, I mean, obviously the gates themselves are important, but what makes the gates the best is the support around them. So we have things like District Guide. When it comes in, we could search our library for a basic land or gate, or be able to put it to our hand. Sage of the Maze is one of the new cards that works really well. Taps for 2 mana in any combination of colors, and until end of turn, we can tap it to give a land. A land becomes an XX, where X is twice the number of gates we control, which would be very useful. And we can tap and untap Gate to untap Sage, basically making a bunch of our lands into big creatures, depending how many gates we have. Circuitous Route can actually go and find 2 gate cards, which is going to be important, as with a card we're going to talk about later, getting to 10 gates is the threshold we need to win. Hour of Promise, although it cares about deserts, also can get us any 2 lands from our deck that we want. It can definitely go get us the key lands for the gates decks, or just gates in general. Open the Gates just can get a basic land or a gate and put it into our hand. And then we'll start getting into the important gates. So Baldur's Gate's one of the better ones, because it can kind of give us a Nykthos effect, where X is the number of gates we control, which could be very great. Of course, again, once we're putting these everything counters on all of our lands, and all of our lands are gates, this means this land can very quickly tap for a lot of mana. It kind of feels like a Cabal Conference as well in that way. Well, the key gates card we're looking for is Maze's End, right? Maze's End comes in tapped. You can tap it out of colors, or you could pay 3 and tap it to return it to its owner's hand to go and get a gate from the deck and put it on the battlefield, and shuffle. If we control 10 or more gates with different names, we win the game. It may seem like there aren't going to be enough gates to get, but we have 9 or 10 gates in these 2 colors, between some of the colorless gates, or the ones that just make colorless mana, or the ones that do different things. We have things like Planar Nexus beside it that has every non-basic land type, so we can get it with Maze's End. We can get the new one, Town Gates of Madara. So there's a lot of choices here, but remember, we're going to be making all of our lands into every land type with the everything counters, meaning that we probably won't need to do as many Maze's End searches as we think we need to, especially when we can start turning lands into gates, or even copying lands with some of our abilities. Well, as far as the Slivers go, like I said, we can only play our green and blue ones, right, because we're in Simic. But I think a lot of them are really important. Garrett Sliver gives them all flying. Gemhide and Mana Weft Sliver both give all of our Slivers the ability to tap for mana of any color, meaning every creature with an everything counter on it would be able to tap for a mana of any color, which is helpful as we cast more and more spells. Shifting Sliver giving them all the ability to only be blocked by Slivers, which should hopefully give them pseudo unblockability. Snap Sliver giving us the ability to draw a card whenever Sliver deals combat damage to a player. And then Tempered Sliver putting a counter on a creature when it deals damage, combat damage to a player. So here's just some examples of the Slivers that can give our creatures that we already have with everything counters on them a reason to get in for different abilities, or make them easier to get in, and really push ourselves forward as far as that goes. The other nice thing with the slivers is if we put an everything counter on a land, and it becomes a creature, it's going to have all creature types. And so we will also be able to interact with these as well. So we do have some ways to make our lands into creatures. Well, as far as copying goes, Spark Double can either come in as a copy of Omo or any other creature we control, which is pretty great. I don't think we want too many copies of Omo. I think like 2 or 3 at the max, because at the end of the day, once we spread the everything counters out there, all we really want Omo for is just making sure that the effect is there. But we have things like Springheart and Tuco that feel really good. So you bestow it on a creature, and then whenever a land comes in, we can pay 1 in the green. And if we do, we can copy the creature that it's copied, that it's attached to. And this can be really good for a lot of creatures. I mean, our deck does have some legendary creatures, but also doesn't as well. And so I think Nankuko is a fun idea to put on something and just keep getting landfall triggers and getting copies. Doppelgang, for each up to X target permanents, create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. This can hit lands. It can be a great way to get us to that gate threshold earlier in the game if we need to get there. Renicus Foul Duplication can make a non-legendary copy of Omo if we want to do that, or some of the other creatures we have. Replication Technique creates a copy of target permanent we control, and we can demonstrate it, giving our opponents the ability to do it. Copy it, and then we get a second one. Again, very useful to make copies of our gates or copies of our important creatures. Helm of the Host can be attached to Omo, and again, just make more copies of itself, getting more everything counters around, and just being good as attackers and blockers when it comes to the late game. Mirage Mirror can become a copy of a artifact, creature, enchantment, or land, meaning it can become a copy of different things, and maybe it will help us out with a particular creature type or a particular land type, as we may need to do some of our abilities. Copy land cannot be the battlefield is a land of any land on the battlefield except it's an enchantment addition to its other types. This is great for some other abilities because we can either take one of our opponent's best lands if we need to, or it just becomes a copy of one of our own lands. And then Endless Evil, beginning our upkeep, create a token that's a copy of the enchanted creature, except the token's a 1/1. And when the creature dies, if that creature's a horror, return this back to our hand. It should be a horror if we get an everything counter on the creature that it's attached to. But hey, put this on a really good creature and make a copy of it every turn. I know that this is kind of all weird in a vacuum because I'm not mentioning any creatures in specific, but I think that part of the deck is where you can turn the dials and make it your own. But I think the copy part of it is what we really want to set up as far as our what we can really set up as far as the back end goes. As far as the type matter stuff, I mean, there's so much in these 2-color combinations of what we can choose. Burrow Worm Speaker gives all worms +2/+2 and trample. Again, with everything counters, everything's going to become a worm. And we can make tokens every turn with it. And we can produce it for mana since all of our creatures are going to be worms. Cyclone Summoner can come in. If we cast from our hand, we return all permanents to those owner hands except for giants, wizards, and lands. This could be really effective because if all of our creatures already have everything counters on them, well, then there are going to be giants and wizards, so they're going to stay down. And this could be a one-sided everybody pick up their things. Feline Sovereign, giving all cats +1/+1 and protection from dogs. And then whenever one or more cats deal damage to a player, destroy up to one target artifact or enchantment that player controls, can really target down those pesky artifacts or enchantment stacks, as again, our creatures are going to have every type. Hackball, since they're going to be all merfolks, can give us the access to the explorer triggers and really take advantage of sifting through our deck and putting lands down that way. Herald of the Hoofbeats is going to give all of our knights horsemanship, meaning they can't be blocked except by creatures with horsemanship. Just more way to give our creatures unblockability. Just like Hackball, Kumena can tap those creatures with everything counters on them to draw cards and give out counters and do some things that way, just really taking advantage of all of that synergy there. Malcolm, whenever one of our pirates we control do damage to one of our opponents, created a Crusher token for each opponent dealt damage, can give us some treasures to help fund what we're doing, and again, all of our creatures will be pirates that way. Priest of Titania, tapping for a green for each elf on the battlefield makes a ton of sense, especially because Again, every creature type, and then spawning Kraken. Whenever a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent deals damage to a player, a 9/9 Kraken. Again, make our whole board into all creature types, meaning that they have those types and can start replacing themselves with tokens and get our board big. So going wide as well that way. We have a Timber Protector, which is a fun card. Other tree folk get +1/+1, and then other tree folk and forests you control have indestructible. This can protect our lands, hopefully, and our other creatures, because if they have an everything counter on them, they're a forest and they're tree, and the creatures are tree folk, meaning it's going to protect everything. Deep Root Pilgrimage can get us more merfolk tokens as our creatures tap. And then Desert Warfan's a fun new one from the actual precon. Whenever you sack a desert and whatever desert card is put into your graveyard from your hand or library, put that card on the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. In the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more deserts, create that many 1/1 red, green, and white Sand Warrior creature tokens. They gain haste. The first ability will only be helpful if if a land with an everything counter on it goes to the graveyard. But that's not going to happen as much. What I think is going to happen more is the bottom ability, where we're going to have lots of lands that are going to be deserts because of the everything counters, and then we're going to get some tokens that we can start swinging in and attacking with. Well, I've said it before on the channel, I'll say it again, no deck is ever perfect. This is my version 1.0, and I think it's got some good legs to it, but there was a lot of cards I wanted to put in. This one was tough to cut some stuff, because I think it just comes down to your preference on what you want to play as far as land synergies or creature synergies. But here's a couple cards that I really wanted to play that just didn't make the cut. Lord of the Unreal seems like a slam dunk. Illusion creatures you control get +1/+1 and have hexproof. Again, this should protect all of our creatures that have an everything counter on them. Robe of the Archmagi can draw cards whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, which can be useful once we put it on something that is big and can attack in. And then Mutational Advantage can actually give permanents we control with counters on them hexproof and indestructible. I like the idea of this in a lot of ways because we can protect everything that has an everything counter on it. We have a lot of other protection in the deck. It's not like Mutational Advantage would have been the only protection spell we had in the deck. I just couldn't find a slot for another protection spell, but I really like this one. In a deck like this where we're trying to just throw those counters everywhere, it makes sense that we would have something like this. But let's get into our play tests. Starting off with a 3-lander, including Maze's End and a Gate, Expedition Map, Kumena, and Herald of Hoofbeat. So a great start, couple tribal pieces, a couple lands. I like it. Turn 1, we'll just get one of these tap lands in to start. Turn 2, we can get the Lumbering Falls in tapped, or we can get the Yavimaya Coast in tapped. I guess, or untapped. Either way, I think we can't do anything. So we'll just get the Lumbering Falls in tapped, get that Expedition Map down. So allows people to get something we might want later. Yavimaya Coast, we could Omo here, but the problem is, I guess Omo wouldn't be bad. We just put an everything counter on it, and then an everything counter maybe on like Lumbering Falls, just to get it started towards being a gate. That could be an option. We could also, like Kumena here, we could crack the Expedition Map, but I kind of like the idea of just getting this down. Put a counter here, put a counter here, everything counter on Omo and on the Lumbering Falls. The Lumbering Falls now a gate 2, so we're up to 2 gates. And then we'll just wait for it to pass around back around to us. Now this turn, we got to get Maze's End in tapped so it can start its way, towards doing the things it needs to do. We could crap the Expedition Map. I'm trying to think what we would go get if we cracked it. I guess Hinterland Harbor's coming in tapped no matter what. So let's get that Maze's End in tapped. I like the idea of getting Kumena down because it'll just start getting more value as we get more creatures down. Like I said, or we can crack that map. The map could go get something that has a basic type, so that Hinterland Harbor could come in and tapped. It could also just go get us another gate and start us down this process a little bit quicker. I kind of like the idea of getting Kumena down here. We would go ahead and attack with Omo. I don't see any reason not to on turn 3. I doubt there's, or 4, I doubt there's anything that crazy that can block Omo and potentially kill it. Put a counter on Kumena, put a counter on, let's say, Yavimaya Coast. Now Yavimaya Coast is a gate as well. So we're already on our way with 3 gates and a Maze's End. And I like it. I guess we could have, once we get another creature down, we can start tapping with Kumena to draw. But we'll go another turn here. Vinestalk in tapped. So here we have an interesting process. We have 5 mana, so we're working our way towards a really cool doppelgang. Maybe we could potentially get there. The only downside to Nantuko right now is that we have nothing that's not legendary to copy. We could get the hoofbeats down here and start giving all of our creatures horsemanship if we want to, but I think that could also put a target on that back. I like the idea of cracking Expedition Map, and I like the idea of cracking Maze's End. I'm just not entirely sure which I prefer here. Bring back to our hand and get a gate, put it on the battlefield. It doesn't say tapped. So I guess I would tap those 3, bring this back to hand, go to our library, and maybe we can get something to come and untap so we can crack the Expedition Map. So we would want to go get a gate that hopefully can come in untapped. I like Baldur's Gate because it's going to be able to start tapping for a ton of mana, maybe, because since we start having more and more gates around, so maybe we'll do that one. Now we're up to 4 gates because of Omo, and then we can actually tap those 2. Or sorry, was this the turn Vinestock came in tapped? Vinestock came in tapped. That's my bad. So we can't crack the map, but that's okay. I still think we're good here. We move to combat, put a everything counter on Vinestock when Omo attacks. And now we're up to 5 gates. We're rocking. We're halfway there. We're rocking down that path again. I still think Omo probably has a good attack here. If not, we could always, wait a turn, so to speak, and see what happens. But I think there's probably a good attack here with Omo still to put the counter there and keep ourselves moving. We'll go another turn here. We obviously want to get the Maze's End back down, right, to keep it moving. But I also like the idea of getting more permanents out on the battlefield. So if I tap Baldur's Gate right now, I'm getting 4 mana off of it. So 4, 5, 6, 7 mana would be the thing right now. I could get Hoofbeats and a Bestow on Hoofbeats, or I could Hoofbeats and sack the Expedition Map, which I feel like is probably what I want to do. Sack the Expedition Map. So it's probably for a land card and put it into my hand. I think we'd want to get, my guess would be another gate, but let's see if there's anything specifically that we can think of in the deck that's, particularly better than it. Thespian Stage could become a copy of Maze's End and actually start doing it that way to make multiples of those. We something like Cloud Post, we can start topping for a lot of colorless mana because we have all of these lands with every type. So maybe we do something like that just to get us some colorless mana. Move to combat. I would still imagine at this point Omo has a good attack that would put a counter here and a counter on Hoofbeats. So now they're all merfolk. Omo again. Well, that's right. We would want to attack here because it is a great type. It has horsemanship, so it can't be blocked. So Kamina and Omo can attack here. And now we're up to 6 gates. We're going very quickly with all these everything counters. And yeah, I mean at this point, what's stopping us is somebody removing Omo. But I think we need to just keep putting the pedal to the metal and get it taken care of. Here was 6 mana. We have 2 choices. We could play this Hinterland Harbor and bounce the entire board with Cyclone Summoner. That could be pretty fun. We could play the Maze's End tapped, tap Baldur's Gate for 5, and go 8 into a Doppelgang to make 2 copies of 2 target permanents. Pick, Simic Guildgate and maybe Lumbering Falls. That would bring us up to 8 gates. Lumbering Falls, we would just have to get counters on those other Lumbering Falls. And then next turn we could win with Maze's End, so that would be an option. We could get the Cloud Post down this turn so that next turn we could tap it for a ton of mana. There's a lot of options here. I think Maze's End makes sense, get us towards the end game. I'd probably just summon her here if it was me. And then that way, these all stay because they are the right types. Everything gets bounced back up. We can do Commandant's ability to draw, or what do we want to do. And I think that's a good kind of place to stop for that one. So let's move on to the next playtest. Again, there we got probably one more turn before we get into having enough gates to win the game. But here we go. We're keeping a 3-lander, Gond Gate, Heap Gate, hitting Cataract, a way to copy a land, Sylvan Scrying to get a land of our choice, and then a couple Mana Web Sliver to have things tap for mana, and then Aven Courier, which can actually put those everything counters on extra creatures. So I guess we'll put the Cataract in turn 1. It's the only one that doesn't come in. It's the only one that comes in tapped. Turn 2, we can... We can't get a green at the moment for that Sylvan Scrying. And I don't think we can get a green for that. So I think we'll just have to play the Aven Courier here. Turn 3, get the Heap Gate down, and then I would just get Omo down now. Then we can put a counter here and here. So this is a gate now. And then Aven Courier, when it attacks, can put a counter that kind on target permanent you don't control that doesn't have it. So we can get an everything counter on Omo. Get a damage in there. So now we've got 3 gates. So we've got ourselves moving towards, and so now Gone Gate can tap for a blue, since we have a gate that can tap for a blue. Let's go another turn here. Didn't get the land, which is kind of fun. You know, always good when you don't get the land, but that's okay. We could copy land somebody else's land if need be. Heap Gate, we could put the mana into that, and then the Gone Gate to Sylvan Scrying. Or I guess we could put it this, do that to get 2 mana into the Mana Web Sliver. These are now slivers because of the Omo's ability. I guess we could Sylvan Scrying here and go get a land that can tap for green, so that we're not always going to be so pressed. But honestly, if I'm going to go get my land of a choice, I'm just going to go get Maze's End at this point, so we can start getting that train rolling. That turn, obviously, we didn't attack because we tapped Omo for mana. Here, the Maze's End comes in tapped. I'm realizing now that actually the Cataract would tap for green because it has every land type with the everything counter. I completely forgot about that. That's on me. It's so hard to remember it sometimes, especially when you're focusing on one individual thing. I would get the Archdruid down, I guess. Endless Evil on like the Courier could be a point here. The Bywaste Bob could be a point here to get that started. Elvish Archdruid just makes sense. Tempo Discovery could be good. Let's do that. This would go green. This could go green because this is a gate and make green. This could go that for that. So we'd still have 2 mana left to do something, which I don't really see anything good at the moment. I would go try to attack with Aven Courier here. Put a counter on, I guess, probably the Sliver, right? So that it's now an elf as well. And then we don't really need to put one on the gates because they are, but I guess we might as well anyway so they can tap for anything, just to be safe. That's a good attack there. And again, now this Elfish Archdruid is going to start tapping for 1, 2, 4 mana at the moment, which is pretty great. Helm of the Host could be fun on Omo. Bowie's Plum. I think we just bounce Maze of Ith to go get our choice of a land, or go get our choice of a gate. We'll go ahead and grab the Baldur's Gate, which can start tapping for more and more mana as we keep going. No land for the turn yet, so we'll get that Maze's End back down. Just the Baldur's Gate up right now, so just 4 green, and then all of these can actually tap for 1. So with a 4 green from the Archdruid, I would play a Bywaste Blob. So that's got at least +1/+1 right now. And then we do have 3 creatures that can tap for mana. We could Endless Evil the Blob and just get the Blob train going if we wanted to. Kind of like the idea of attacking with the Courier so we can get some more on things. Let's see, we got the 1 left. We could go 4 into this Helm of the Host on Omo to get that starting. More and more Omos, more and more counters on things. That could be interesting. We could Replication Technique next turn. We could Tempo Discovery this turn. I think I'll just put the Endless Evil on... I guess it doesn't get haste. I guess I'll put it on the Blob to get that started. 1, 2, and 3. Attack with the Courier. Put a counter on the put a counter on, I guess, the blob, so it becomes an elf. And these are all oozes, so they're going to get +1/+1 with the blob. And then we'll go another turn here, seeing a Dark Depths, which enters the battlefield with 10 ice counters on it, and we have to pay to get our thing. But we would get a copy of this with Endless Evil. Baldur's Gate tapping for 3 mana at the moment. Putting 2 to get 3. Let's see. I think we would 1, 2, 3 bounce the Maze of Sith. Go get. So this is the kind of gate part of it where you're just trying to get the right gates at the right time. That one enters tapped. I kind of like to get the one that makes them not come in tapped so that we can start getting the other gates and have them come in and be able to use them. Which gate is that? Is that one we already have down? It is. Sorry, it is the one we already have down. So we can just start getting whatever gates we want. So that is helpful. We'll go Seagate, calling green when it comes in. So now it's 2 mana we can use. I'll go copy land on the Baldur's Gate. That comes in, so we're up to 6 gates. Play the Maze of Sith again for turn. Oh, we can't copy Baldur's Gate because it's a legendary. So let's copy Gond Gate, I guess. I apologize, I forgot that was legendary. So that is 1, 2, 3 mana. We could. This comes in tapped. So I think what I'd rather do here is maybe get like the Helm of the Host on here. Attack with the Aven. Put a counter on Archdruid. Put a counter on. Well, this is already a gate because it's tapped that way. But I think what we could do here is next turn we should have enough mana to Replication Technique and Temple Discovery and Maze of Sith to end the game. Replication Technique to make a copy of. We're at 7 gates right now. It checks after we search it, so we could just Replication Technique one of our gates, making 2 of them. Our opponent could copy one of theirs, and then crack the Maze's End and end the game that. But let me know, what do you think of my Omo deck down in the description below, again, or comments below. I know I took it towards gates, which some people aren't going to like. Some people are going to want to do whatever land type they want to do, but that's my shot. I'd love to hear what you think, and I will catch you guys next time.